Jiang Ryan was originally a super talented policeman. Only because of a big scandal at work, Jiang Ryan was transferred to a remote countryside. Unexpectedly, on the first day of moving, he met a strange girl, a blonde girl who looked like a sharp person who liked to touch other people's buttocks. Jiang Ryan didn't know that a bun had the superpower to touch her buttocks and read memories, and she herself would later be a companion to help Jiang Ryan solve serial rape cases. A bun was an ugly girl, an orphan with both parents. Her job was a veterinarian, but her business was extremely poor. There were no guests for most of the day, until one day, a cow changed Ibun's fate. That night, Choi Min-kyu immediately came to ask her to take care of his pregnant cow, suddenly stopped eating and cried all day. Ibun patiently rubbed the cow's head to make it feel good, and then carefully checked his health. Unexpectedly, there was a meteor shower that night, and a bright star shot down, as if through the cow, and Ibun was immediately thrown away. After the incident, Ibun fainted for 3 days before waking up. At that time, she remembered the painful memories of losing her parents early, having to rely on someone, and at the same time, still harboring the desire to be recognized by her grandfather. She was determined to enroll in veterinary medicine. When he wakes up, Ibun finds that every time his hand touches the cat's or dog's buttocks, he sees the memories in their perspective. For example, when she tried to stroke the cat's buttocks, she saw the whole moment the cat saw its owner fall somewhere. When she touched the buttocks of the uncle who was rubbed in the clinic, she knew that the reason it barked incessantly was because the food rolled under the table. Even touching the tail of the fish, she saw the minute rope of the fish being pulled ashore by the fishing rod. At first, she thought she was hallucinating. When I went to the doctor, no one believed her. Even the doctor advised me to go to the psychiatric department. But Ibun thought she must have unusual abilities, so she decided to test it on her. On one occasion, she encountered a pickpocket on the bus, and she patted him on the back but saw nothing. Suddenly remembered that before that, you had to touch the animal's buttocks to be effective. She took the risk of slapping the pickpocket's buttocks with her hands dirty, but she was unsuccessful and was almost accused of molestation. Fortunately, the policeman had just moved to a town named Zhang, and Ryan was able to intervene. Although he did not believe her words about his ability to read memories, he had to let her leave because her records were not suspicious. After that time, Ibun concluded that perhaps his abilities only apply to animals. She tried to think about making money by guessing numbers, but when she put her hand on the lottery ticket, she didn't see any memories. Returning to the clinic sadly, she met an old man named a male doctor who brought his pet dog because he had not eaten or drunk for several days. Ibun, after checking, found no serious illness other than the fact that the dog was old and muscularly weakened, and the old man looked worried. Ibun decides to use his power to put his hand on the dog's buttocks and sees the emotional memory. The old man had to struggle every day to push the car to work to earn a little money and then share the meager food with the dogs. Because he loved him so much, the dog thought that as long as he didn't eat anymore, the old man would work less hard until he was exhausted. But the old man explained that the dog was a comfort that motivated him to live longer. So he hoped it would stay with him until the end of his days and then leave. Hearing that, the dog immediately agreed to eat, and everyone was relieved. At that moment, Jiang Ryan moved his belongings to the apartment upstairs, accidentally slipped the mattress and fell backwards. Ibun was startled and rushed to help him, but her hand immediately touched Jiang Ryan's buttocks. Immediately, she saw the scene of the tiger hero chasing a group of criminals, including someone who knew him. After that, Jiang Ryan was suddenly attacked and fainted. Ibun was startled and stepped back. Jiang Ryan felt insulted. He immediately made a slap over his shoulder and knocked this strange girl to the ground. While she was in pain, the Ibun couldn't help but be surprised because she had just discovered her ability to see human memories. At that moment, Ibun's best friend Hyejin appears. Ibun hurriedly tests on her friend, and indeed, she can see what Hyejin has been through. Ibun thinks of the memories she saw in Park Sung-hoon. The man with suspicious glasses had a dazzling behavior to force a girl. Ibun was worried about the other woman, so he decided to find Jiang Ryan. He had just moved to work as a police officer in the town to report, but Jiang Ryan didn't believe her. He saw Ibun as a fool and invited her out of the station. On the way back to meet the magician Muzin, who had just returned from a long trip, he advised Ibun to be confident and use more persuasive words if he wanted people to believe his words. Ibun listened to him and went to Jiang Ryan's house again, but before he could say anything good, He threw 2 tissues at her and chased her away again, whipping her back. Abun went online to find out clues related to the image she saw when she accidentally touched Park Sung-hun's buttocks. It seemed that he forced a live-stream girl to dance. Abun speculates that the victim may be a female streamer, remembering that Park Sung-hun used to be her junior in college, who is now working for a veterinary hospital, and asks for his address from the institute. She sneaks over there to investigate, and it just so happens that Park Sung-hun has just arrived home. Abun pretended to visit his old friend, invited him out for coffee, and while chatting, Abun cleverly learned about his recent life. But he was wary and refused the invitation to enter the house. Just as Park Sung-hun bent down to tie a thick rope, his buttocks were right in front of him, and Abun lost his balance. His hands accidentally touched the buttocks of the cafe owner named Sunji, and the scene was suddenly extremely embarrassing. But Abun still didn't give up. She invites Park Sung-hun to eat seafood, to continue exploiting clues. Unfortunately, she accidentally burns her tongue from hot food, and has to open her mouth to breathe like a child on the bus home. This scene caught the eye of Jiang Ryan passing by, and he was even more convinced that Abun was a strange woman. Returning home, Abun took a long-tongued stone to relieve the burn, and at this time, Yin called to report that a handsome boy had come to the clinic. Abun happily unloaded and ran over. It turned out to be Minky, an English major, hugging the cat to come to the doctor. While examining the cat, Abun deliberately touched the cat's buttocks. Immediately witnessing the scene where Minky had just finished bathing appeared with a charming look. But because the cat was standing low, Abun couldn't see everything clearly, and she almost scratched her neck because she was tilted. Later, Minky visits the house of the magician Musin, who happens to be in need of an English tutor and also rents a room. Minky accepts English lessons and rents a room right next to Abun's clinic, knowing that the attractive boy has moved next to her. Abun was as happy as opening a flag in his stomach. Meanwhile, Abun fails to take the initiative, and she arrives at Park Sung-hun's doorstep, carrying a cat hidden in a luxurious book bag. Through the cat's eyes, Abun sees Park Sung-hun entering the password to open the door. She immediately followed and discovered the live stream room full of protests, just like the scene she had seen before. Abun wants to find the whereabouts of the girl who was killed, but suddenly Park Sung-hun returns. She tried to slip through, and as a result, she broke the door frame and got stuck at her waist, so she was on her way home. Abun had to be vaccinated with the whole door frame, as if he was wearing a buoy. Jiang Ryan accidentally witnessed this scene again, even more convinced that she was indeed a strange person. Abun tearfully begged him to help her remove the door frame, and Jiang Ryan took the saw and cut it. Meanwhile, Abun asks why he doesn't believe in her abilities. She said that only because she trusted him did she reveal that she had the ability to see memories. Referring to the fact that he had lost track of suspect and soul, Jiang Ryan changed his face for a moment. He obviously didn't want to recall the past, and after cutting the door frame, he shouted at her to disappear. At the same time, Hyejin, Abun's best friend, calls her to the cafe because she has a boyfriend. She wants Abun to be a witness to love, but Abun is shocked when she sees that Hyejin's boyfriend is Sung Jae. The guy who owns the restaurant accidentally touched her before. Abun remembers in his memory a glimpse of a girl wearing a wig, wearing thigh-length stockings. It was obviously not Hyejin, but when he heard Abun mention it, Hyejin didn't believe it, affirming that if she doesn't provide evidence that the two of them will cut off their friendship, Abun has to ask Sung Jae to go out for a drink. Waiting for him to soak up the glaze and then touch his buttocks again, unfortunately at that moment Jiang Ryan walked by. Seeing Abun putting his hands behind Sung Jae's back, he looks at her again with eyes like a criminal. Abun had no choice but to pretend to give Sung Jae a massage. After Sung Jae drunkenly refuses, Abun carries him to the motel. Unexpectedly, when she just put Sung Jae down on the bed, Jiang Ryan and Hyejin stormed into the room again. Hyejin sees Abun and her boyfriend being together in a sensitive situation and gets angry. Abun explained all of Hyejin's words before she went to interrogate the guy himself, eventually discovering another girl turned out to be Sung Jae's own hobby. He used to dress up as a woman, which was the image Abun had seen. At this time, Hyejin believed her friend, temporarily clearing up the misunderstanding. However, Abun still wants to investigate the case of the girl who was arrested by Sung-hun. She found another livestream channel in the room she saw in her memory, thinking that it was the place where he was holding the victim. Ibn immediately went to the female streamer's address to verify. Downstairs, she called Jang Ryan. Believing that he was an enthusiastic policeman who would not stand by with his arms crossed, Jang Ryan began to waver. But suddenly his superiors trained him to surround and catch a bunch of apricots. It was an opportunity for him to score again in Seoul. So Jang Ryan left, leaving Ibn to act alone. Ibn sneaks into the female streamer's apartment, unexpectedly caught by Sung-hoon. He had now revealed the true form of Ibn's strength, making her breathless and in a dangerous situation. Before Ibn had time to struggle, Jang Ryan suddenly entered the river. He immediately controlled Sung-hoon, saving Yibin in the gauntlet. At the same time, Ibn discovered that there was also a seriously injured girl in the room. Jang Ryan rushed her to the hospital, and the girl escaped death thanks to that. It turns out that Jang Ryan had set out to arrest the smuggler, but Ibn's words kept haunting him. Not wanting to betray her trust, he came back to help. After this incident, Jang Ryan finally starts trusting Ibn. He brought Ibn a stack of files so that she could continue to use her investigative power. So according to Jang Ryan's instructions, Ibn had to go everywhere, every day, try to find a way to touch all kinds of people. At the same time, Jang Ryan received a case at his father's congressman's office, in front of a list of stolen political money donations. When elections are taking place, if the list falls into the hands of opponents, the consequences are unpredictable. Jang Ryan had a hunch that this was a golden opportunity to help him return to Seoul. He called Hyejin to help, and she gathered everyone to cause a disturbance at the office. Taking advantage of the chaos, Ibn touched the employees one by one. Through the female assistant's memory, she saw someone sneaking in to steal the list. But the strange thing was that the thief's shoes were exactly the same as those of his grandfather, so she had to search his room. The person found the list because he wanted to protect him. Ibn squeezed into the parliamentarian's office in the middle of the night to return the list. Unexpectedly, his grandfather appeared in a daze, seemingly having a secret affair, so he tried to prevent Ibn from returning the documents. Just when a security guard arrived, he was forced to pause. Although he found the list, the case ended too quickly, making Jang Ryan disappointed. He has not yet scored any achievements to return to Seoul. Tomorrow, the village will have a new crop. A fisherman has stolen several batches of seafood. Placing the police station to suspect that this was a serial theft organization, Jang Ryan was excited. The victim said that the thief was most likely a worker named Ali. Jang Ryan, Raft, asked Ibn to bring his ability to check. Ibn demands that he first help her solve another case. It turns out that the mage Musin has just saved a dog buried alive in the mountains. Ibn gave the dog emergency in time and vowed to find this cruel person. Jang Ryan agreed, and the two went to see Musin to get more clues. Minky was also happy to help, and Ibn was overjoyed. She divided the task. She and Minky climbed the mountain to collect evidence. Jang Ryan and Musin looked for the suspect's vehicle information. Jang Ryan struggled to check the camera and books. To the point of pain in his back, but still no results, Ibn was going to touch the dog's buttocks to get more memories. But he wasn't well, so he watched very little. Ibn told Jang Ryan. After he helped her nourish the skin of her hands, the images she saw changed from black and white to thin. Jang Ryan analyzed. It turns out that the better the care of Yibin's hand, the stronger the ability. Ibn immediately took advantage of it, dragging him to a nail salon, painting all kinds of things, and then making him pay. So many memories she saw up to 1080p definition. Then she lured Jang Ryan to give her an expensive ring. Brought in, the image also shows visiting the news who scoops up time, making it easier for her to tour quickly or review details. In the end, she asked to buy all kinds of collagen medicines, supplement calcium, prevent hair use, and drink for a while to upgrade her vision. As a result, she finds the location of the suspect's house, and Jang Ryan immediately rushes in with her to arrest him, the dog adopted by Ibn. After handling this case, Jang Ryan dragged Ibn again to find the perpetrator of the seafood theft. After Yibin touched Alice's buttocks, she saw that he was secretly meeting someone. But the trouble was that they were both foreigners. They spoke Arabic, so Ibn didn't understand. Without getting any clues, Jang Ryan angrily demanded to get the ring back. The two of them had their teeth clenched so much that Hyejin thought they were intimacy. Hyejin had a crush on Jang Ryan since he gave her lipsticks. Now thinking that her friend wanted to snatch her boyfriend, so she showed an unpleasant attitude. Ibn had to explain if she finished the seafood theft this time. She will immediately stay away from Jiang Ryan to investigate Ollie. Jiang Ryan handed Yibin a dictionary of Arabic and forced her to study urgently. Ibn cried because she was old and had to learn a foreign language. After that, Jiang Ryan pressed terribly every night in her school. If she turns off the light early, he calls with a smile, and Ibn has to plug in his head to study day and night. Mama went to the supermarket once. She found out that Minky could speak Arabic, so she begged him to tutor her. At the same time, Musin also participates in learning, after a period of arduous bookkeeping. Finally, Ibn hears that Ollie wants to collect money for the surgery for his mother, so Jiang Ryan forces Ollie to tell the truth. Ollie confessed to stealing seafood and reminded his accomplices that they were also immigrants. That afternoon, Jiang Ryan and Ibn squeezed into this group of people. Unexpectedly, they were too crowded, immediately blinded both of them, intending to throw them into the sea to expel them from the locality. At the moment of danger, Ollie secretly took off his dazzle to save the two people. Jiang Ryan was mad. He took the river iron rod in. In the blink of an eye, the group of thieves collapsed, and finally Ollie apologized to the fisherman and his wife. They sympathize with Ollie because they know that he is also too difficult, but the series of scandals in this village is not over. Someone caught a woman's ear on the sea, while the corpse was washed on the rocky shore. Since Ibn cooperated with the police to break up a series of cases, the two understood each other even more. This time, Jiang Ryan said to take Ibn somewhere convenient. Whoever is cheap, he launched straight up to the Super. The target was the notorious plum bunch that the police also gave up. Jiang Ryan was not bored. This time he told Yibin that he must touch the buttocks of the bunch to see what he had been doing recently. Ibn touched it and realized that the bunch guy was buying a series of offshore fishing boats. Jiang Ryan suspected that he was plotting to transport prohibited goods by sea. Jiang Ryan is an enthusiastic police officer. He confronts directly with the plum beam and then lets go of threats. He announced that he would catch him with his own hands sooner or later. While Jiang Ryan was busy intimidating, Ibn was fascinated by the splendor of the super unruly, and she looked at all kinds of expensive dresses. When Hyojin heard that Ibn's new dress was paid for by Jiang Ryan, she almost tore the cassava dress. Ibn has to lie that there is really no romantic relationship between her and Jiang Ryan, so there will be no more trouble. That night, Ibn accepts to go to Choi Minkyu's farm to examine the cow. Choi Minkyu also has special abilities, except that he can see memories when he touches other people's thighs. He tells Ibn that this kind of superpower is a treasure of heavenly love. Sure enough, when Ibn accidentally placed her hand on Choi Minkyu's buttocks, she saw a series of scenes where the guy had used his abilities to win countless women's hearts. Choi Minkyu advises Ibn to make full use of this ability in love affairs. His words made Ibn feel like he was awake. On the way back to the clinic, she runs into Minkyu. The boy still noticed. She hurriedly took the bottle of fresh cow's milk given by Choi Minkyu to give Minkyu. I was aiming for a chance to touch the guy's attractive buttocks when a head-to-head advertisement was blown by the wind right on Minkyu's buttocks. Ibn was happy as if he had caught the gold, and as soon as he stretched out his hand, the mage Musin rushed in from nowhere, snatching the advertisement and then directly cleaning the milk bottle. Yibin choked up and couldn't say a word. Soon, the village was abuzz with a series of mixed women's underwear. Since there were no cameras or witnesses, the police ordered everyone to be ambushed. The first night, they encountered the mixer, but he ran as fast as a cutter. And Fang Jiang roared a stick from behind. The next night, the whole group trapped their teeth carefully. But the mixer picked up the dog bowl on the ground and slammed it on Jiang Lion's head, causing him to be humiliated twice in a row. Extremely heartwarming. He and Lap continued to investigate. Suddenly discovered a man wearing women's underwear. At first glance, the perpetrator. Whoever was cheap, he boasted that it was a gift from the mage Musin. The purpose of regulating yin and yang, because this person had too much yang qi. Jiang Ryan searched all over Musin's house and found nothing suspicious. At that time, on the loudspeaker, there was a news praising Jiang Ryan for risking his life to catch the lingerie mixer. The villagers laughed at the fact that he was hit on the head by a dog bowl, which made him even more embarrassed. The two news that there was a lingerie mixer, Ibn and Hyojin rushed to the underwear store, buying the hottest series. Make an appointment to burn all the old clothes at home. If they're also mixed and then made public, the hometown dies. Of course, Ibn still wanted to take the opportunity to make a move with Minky. Unfortunately, at the moment when she arranged to put her hand on Minky's buttocks, Jiang Ryan showered again, not allowed her to do it. On the contrary, he even stretched out his buttocks in front of Abun, wanting her to touch it to see her memories. Looking forward to finding clues to the lingerie mixer, Abun was shy but gave it a try. At first, I only saw that in the past, Jiang Ryan had saved a boy who was adopted by a nun. He was far away from the gang, and Jiang Ryan helped him return to the road many times. The two seemed to have a special bond. Abun was curious. So, she touched him more closely. This time she clearly saw that the underwear was the same person who had bought the dog bowl at the clinic. It was the same person who hit Jiang Ryan on the head that night. Abun and Jiang Ryan went into the mixer's house. Jiang Ryan was about to chase after him when suddenly a man shot out as fast as a ray of support. It turns out that Hyojin gathers friends to help her lover alleviate the extreme. This friend is a superintendent in the school, specializing in chasing special students, so he runs extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he had caught the mixer. However, at that time, Jiang Ryan was seriously injured by a boy. Abun panicked and realized that he was the person she had seen in Jiang Ryan's memory. She was about to call the police, but Jiang Ryan brushed it off. Abun immediately took him to the hospital. Fortunately, the wound was not his mother. But let her ask about the boy. Jiang Ryan brushed it off again and told her not to talk too much. Muzin and Minky came to visit. Jiang Ryan thought Muzin gave him an envelope of money. When you open it, you know that it is a charm to nourish the kidneys for men. He was bored when suddenly the whole village came, interested in asking him to lie. For the first time, Jiang Ryan felt the warmth of the villagers. Meanwhile, his comrades searched the house of the mixer, finding all the lingerie for the sisters. They lined up to pick it up, and Abun took the opportunity to visit Jiang Ryan. Here she encountered the boy who had fallen in love with Ryan again. It was absurd. He seemed to be worried about Jiang Ryan's situation. Abun remembered the memory he saw. You and Jiang Ryan are as close as family members, so why did you take action? She questioned and then accidentally touched his buttocks, seeing the whole engine. It turned out that he had been directed in the right direction by Jiang Ryan, but because she was sick, she needed money for surgery. He was forced to follow the hand of the plum bunch, who had forced him to Jiang Ryan, knowing that if someone else did it, Jiang Ryan would die. So he went down on his own to try to avoid hurting his mother. Abun told Jiang Ryan that he was frustrated because he was stabbed, so he didn't want to hear more. Just as Abun was speaking, the boy walked into the hospital room in a panic, his body full of injuries. Definitely caused by the man's limbs, the boy constantly apologized to Jiang Ryan. In his eyes, Jiang Ryan has always been his brother and the most reliable friend. Abun touched the boy's buttocks, seeing that the memory was filled with warm moments between him and Jiang Ryan. But not long after, the scene went away, and the boy stopped breathing. Jiang Ryan's good brother was pitted. Jiang Ryan insisted that the killer of his friend was the plum bunch. Despite the unhealed wounds, he wiped out of the hospital to go to Seoul to find him to make a calculation. Abun was afraid that he would provoke a mess, so he sneaked after him, and as soon as he arrived in Seoul, Jiang Ryan rushed into the beam. Abun also stopped her. She touched the buttocks of the beam and saw when the victim was harmed. He was at home, obviously not the perpetrator. Jiang Ryan refused to listen. He also asked to cooperate with the Seoul police to arrest my Tui. Who would have thought that they would handcuff him for assault? So Jiang Ryan was thrown into temporary custody. That night, arranged for the police to visit him and show Abun the autopsy photos. The bruises on Jiang Ryan's body were exposed and smeared everywhere. It's like the kind of person who only commits social rebellion and is not professional. The limbs of the apricot beam used to strike quickly. It couldn't be like such a wound. That night, the police took Abun to the village and, at the same time, inquired about the relationship between her and Jiang Ryan. Recently, they kept wrapping each other like a picture with a ball. The villagers whispered that the two were lovers. Abun waved his hand and refused to push, who was free to get involved with the nervous guy. But at night, no one sent a message urging the meeting. No one was standing across the street calling me anymore. Abun suddenly felt empty, and Hyojin was even more impatient than her. As soon as she heard the news that Jiang Ryan was released, Hyojin hurriedly carried the tofu mixture that she had glued with her own hands. Saying that eating tofu would avoid being caught in the eye next time, Jiang Ryan didn't expect to look at it. He went straight to find Abun because there were no camera clues or witnesses in the case. There is only one way to rely on Ibun's ability. She agrees to help. But Hyojin witnesses the scene and feels her heart burning. Wanting to win Jiang Ryan's heart, Hyojin hurriedly looked for the magician Muzin, asking for a charm. That night, she immediately picked up Dan into Jiang Ryan's house to hide the charm in his underwear. Dumbfounded by him, she reluctantly ran to Muzin, asking for more charms to drive away her opponents. Secretly tucked the bad luck charm under the Abun pillow. That night, Hyojin happened to meet Abun, who was standing watching the moon. It turns out that he used to love cars and wreck the police, but chose to marry someone else, and later broke up. The police are still waiting for her alone. What do you regret because you didn't appreciate that feeling in the past? What was Hyojin's confidant that touched her? That very night, she immediately pulled the charm from Ibun's pillow, and throwing both the charm and the charm to drive away. Unfortunately, the two charms flew again and hit the fat overseer's car. Because of the strange effect of the charm, he almost got into an accident. Hyojin helped him get up, and the charm of fate stuck to him. Unexpectedly, these two people were suddenly beautiful. As a result, Hyojin quickly gave up his plan to pursue Jiang Ryan. At the same time, Ibun and Jiang Ryan went to his friend, who was pitiful behind the hospital mountain. But there were no cats or dogs around. There was no way. Ibun had to look for another animal, and suddenly a young stinger flew by. Jiang Ryan said that maybe there was a young child in his nest who could see something. Ibun struggled to climb the electric pole, miserably climbed to the bird's nest. Discovering that the chicks had not yet opened their eyes, they were useless, and they saw a flock of snakes around. Jiang Ryan pounced on one and told Ibun to touch its buttocks, and Ibun trembled and groped the snake's body. I didn't see anything, and I grabbed a few more. She finally saw the memories from a snake present at the scene. The murderer wore a raincoat and walked away. Jiang Ryan then dragged Ibun to find a shop selling raincoats, and suddenly saw that Minky was also wearing this type. The two of them were stunned. Looking around, they knew that everyone in the village had that raincoat, because it was an essential item, but on the day of the crime, it didn't rain, proving that the perpetrator deliberately wore it to hide the bloodstains. Obviously, this is a scheming person. Jiang Ryan was secretly trying to pull out a knife. It is said that in the snake's memory, the perpetrator used this knife correctly. I thought I had found a big piece of salt. Anyone who dared to arrange the police to check saw that this was just a promotional knife model that every house has. Before the headache was gone, Ibun examined the dog again. From her perspective, she saw a man lying on the shore of a coastal rock. The police immediately arrived at the place of investigation. Jiang Ryan realized that the victim's earrings were those of the steamer he had saved. The management company and the steamer's boyfriend both said that they hadn't seen her for a long time. The manager also mentioned Minky at the grocery store, that the last night he saw Ms. Steamer standing talking to Minky. Minky clearly remembered that the steamer had left her contact number, but he didn't contact. The mage Muzin happened to shoot a clip. In it, the female steamer got into the car and left. There was no car around the scene. When the father rescued him, they learned the car had been taken to the repair shop after an accident. 2 weeks ago, the towman was called, but the driver was gone. Jiang Ryan suspected that the female steamer was harmed in this accident. Maybe the perpetrator was the one who caused the accident, and then it was reported that her account received money from her father's congressman. The MP said that Ms. Steamer was very popular, so she invited her to cooperate in making a promotional video. Then she tapped the money, threatening to take down the video if she didn't pay. After listening to him, he thought of Troy Minky. Last time, she happened to feel that he saw the scene of Minky causing a car accident with a female steamer. Troy Minky admitted to being in a car crash that day, but thinking that the injury was not serious, she demanded too high compensation, so he left. At this time, Jiang Ryan suddenly realized that the wound on Ms. Steamer's body was quite similar to the stab wound on his friend. At the same time and placed close to each other, Jiang Ryan suspected that the two cases were caused by the same perpetrator. But the boss objected, fearing that the rumors of mass crowding would cause land prices to fall and tourism to be sluggish. Although he was worried about losing his piece of rice, in the end, the boss still secretly made an appointment to meet Jiang Ryan that night. Because he is also an honest person, he can no longer ignore it. In the end, the police boss agreed to give Jiang Ryan full authority to investigate. Minky enthusiastically offered to escort him home, telling her to leave the house and call him immediately. He blushed, and his heart beat wildly, thinking that he had feelings for him. But he didn't expect him to say all those words to his aunt. It made her realize that Minky was too friendly to everyone. A few nights later, when he was about to go to see a pet collector, Jiang Ryan suddenly stopped him and confirmed that the perpetrator was hiding somewhere in the village. Planning to apply the tactic of the Sea of People, Bao Wai Bun went everywhere to hope for all the villagers. Every day, 1,000 people, about 1 month, will complete the target of 30,000 people. Surprisingly, he agreed, starting with the special students. She pretended to be a billionaire and asked for protection money, but at that time she wanted to get her memories. To speed things up, Jiang Ryan also designed a cardboard box with holes. One by one, the students entered, and then they hid in it one after another. But after the first few days of tightness, the results were still empty-handed. Her hair was fresh, and she couldn't find any clues. The next day, the villagers held an exorcism ritual, and the dancing magician Muzin was suddenly possessed by the spirits of the two victims. Violently walking towards Jiang Ryan announced, the murderer was hiding among the people participating in the ceremony. Unfortunately, Muzin couldn't stand the pressure and immediately fainted, and the crowd ran away in fear. Although he woke up quickly and asked Minky to take care of him, he no longer remembered that he had just been haunted. Jiang Ryan was going to drag him to touch the buttocks of the villagers, saying that the target of 1,000 people a day had not been completed. He was afraid that he would become a thorn in the eyes of the perpetrator, so he pretended to lose his superpowers and even tried to escape to the window. As soon as he poked his head out, he saw Jiang Ryan standing around outside. He understood her behavior too well, so he used both intimidation and begging. Wai Bun finally compromised, but in order to keep her mother alive, she put on a helmet, through signing the jackfruit, walking close to him but still keeping a distance after a day of touching his buttocks without results. The next day, she went to the police station to meet Jiang Ryan when a girl who worked at the same tea shop came to report the crime. This person confirmed that her friend named Ajan had been missing all night and had not returned. Ajan was so honest that he would rather have to donate to the nursery if he was hungry, and he cried when he heard it. She was determined to try her best to find Ajan. Jiang Ryan examined the traces. It was discovered that Ajan's phone and bank account were suddenly erased. In addition, there have been 2 cases of his mother recently. He suspects that Ajan may be the next victim. He told him to wait at the door of the clinic, and whoever was halfway cheap would see her happily riding Minky's bicycle. Bao was going to visit the carpentry workshop he had just rented, and Jiang Ryan called to check. Wai Bun lied that he was in the hospital and was immediately blocked by him. Jiang Ryan didn't give her a chance to date, dragging her to collect clues. And the warning is that handsome people like Minky often look for a sharp hide. He resisted, making sure Minky was innocent. At the water bar, when investigating, Jiang Ryan raised her eyes and signaled for her to touch the hostess. But she bluntly stretched out her hand, and the mistress of course turned around. Seeing in front a man and a woman, Jiang Ryan and Yi Bun, she immediately guessed that Jiang Ryan was the bad guy. At that moment, she immediately responded to the tea with a squeeze that made him jump, and he stood next to one with a smile. Thanks to the memories from the owner, they knew that Ajan had never returned to his hometown. At that time, the friend who worked at the same tea shop was going to take the car away. Wai Bun saw a bear-shaped keychain that was exactly the same accessory she had seen in Minky's workshop, and the girl said it was made by Ajan. Only 2 in the world, Jiang Ryan immediately suspected Minky. But to verify, he planned to make him chew gum and then deliberately stick to Minky's buttocks, taking the candy to touch it. The result was only that Minky had bought an old computer from a student. The trumpet followed the bear keychain, while the other student himself was driving Ajan's tram. Thanks to this information, Jiang Ryan found the place where the car was discarded, where there were bloodstains and a mass-produced promotional knife. A nearby camera recorded Ajan being restrained by the perpetrator wearing a raincoat, Jiang Ryan guessing that she still had hope of living. They followed the clue to a small company where Ajan delivered coffee, and he touched the boss buttocks after leaving the company. Ajan didn't go to the tea house. She turned in the other direction, crossed the field, and led to Choi Minkyu's farm. He said that he had only met Ajan at the tea shop a few times, and he was not familiar with it. Wai Bun knew that Choi Minkyu was lying, because she remembered that she had touched his buttocks and saw the scene that Ajan often visited. Seeing that the 2 of them had a close relationship, while talking, Choi Minkyu had the intention of touching Jiang Ryan's thigh, and he hurriedly tried to intervene. She then told Jiang Ryan about Choi Minkyu's superpower of touching other people's thighs. It is speculated that he wanted to know the progress of the investigation, so he tried to touch the policeman's thigh. It was just dark, and Choi Ming-kyu suddenly drove out. They split up to follow, and he quickly discovered that he had gone to an abandoned warehouse. But unfortunately, he was discovered. She turned the card upside down, accusing Choi Ming-kyu of cheating. Choi Ming-kyu revealed that he was only afraid of being misunderstood by the police, and he resolutely refused to believe him and demanded to touch his buttocks. Choi Ming-kyu didn't give up either and wanted to touch his thighs. The two sides rushed into each other, both defending the blow. At that moment, Jiang Ryan arrived, but he did not rush to save the bun doctor, but ran straight to the pile of scraps, where Jan was hiding. When discovered, Choi Ming-kyu was forced to admit that he helped Jan set up a fake drama to evade debts. The owner of the restaurant forced her to work hard to pay. Choi Ming-kyu had feelings for Jan, so he planned to rely on rumors of a series of strong crimes to help her escape. Jiang Ryan said he had expected it in advance because there were many traces of deliberate installation at the scene. The knife was thrown indiscriminately, and the person wearing the raincoat left the camera to record too easily. Later, Choi Ming-kyu reveals something to him when he touches her thigh. He saw that the night the two people were hit by the meteor, there was actually a third person present, which means in addition to the two old people. There was another person in the village who also received the power from the meteor thanks to the support of his ability. That time, Jiang Ryan saved Jan. The misunderstood girl was murdered, but was actually just evading debts. A colleague named Giselle heard that the police had closed the case. Curious to inquire about the situation, unexpectedly Giselle himself reported Jan's location. As a result, as soon as Jan came out of the station, he was dragged back by the innkeeper's henchman, and the person who revealed where she was hiding was the good sister Giselle. At this time, Choi Ming-kyu ran to find him and scolded Ms. Sun for nothing. He knew that he had made a mistake. Turning to ask why Giselle betrayed you, Giselle said it was because they guaranteed each other's debts. If Jan runs away, all the rest falls on Giselle's head. He melancholy shares with Minky, complaining to herself that she couldn't see through. Minky just smiled, asked why Bun how he thinks of Father Yuyun. Why Bun replied that Yaiwan's father was a good person, and she also believed Minky was a good person. She planned to reveal the secret of her superpowers to him to prove her belief. But Minky refuses and advises her not to trust anyone, including himself. In front of Minky, he excitedly drinks his glass. The car softens and dreams that Giselle has drowned. She was afraid that something was wrong and hurriedly went to find her. When she leaves the restaurant, she forgets her phone, and Minky picks it up. Putting his hand on the screen, his expression changed slightly. That day, Giselle had to deliver coffee, and he suddenly climbed in her car. Bun wants to help Giselle because he knows that she betrayed Jan out of reluctance. But Giselle doesn't trust anyone and runs away. He returned with 2 prizes, and in the middle of the road, he found a Giselle car lying in the bushes, and he lost his mind. He was aware of danger, hurriedly caught a firefly, and jumped into it to look at his memories. Giselle was seen being chased by the murderer. She came to save her. After a life-and-death struggle, he hid the temporary Giselle in the grass and wanted to call the police. After suffering that she forgot her phone, she ran to the street to block the bus. He was going to remember the villagers to help, but suddenly remembered Jiang Ryan's words that the perpetrator was hidden between them. She glanced at each person with her wary eyes. Afraid of giving his trust in the wrong place, he followed the bus back to the village. As soon as she saw the crowd cheering for her father to win the parliamentary election, she ignored them all. After going straight to the station to find Jiang Ryan, he was the only person she dared to believe now. The two rushed to the hiding place, but it was too late. Giselle lost his life. Through the memory of touching her buttocks, he saw that the murderer was still wearing a raincoat. Holding the promotional knife is the same as the previous crops. Now, it is almost certain that this is a series of murders. Bun and Jiang Ryan were simultaneously suspicious of Jiang Ming. Maybe he hated Giselle for selling out Jan and took action, but when he touched his buttocks, memories show that he only stayed at home drinking all day. Strange in that place. Bun was clearly hiding the Giselle in the construction place. So, why did the perpetrator still find it? Jiang Ryan argued that it was very likely that the person who killed people also had special abilities. Just like him, she remembered that Choi Min-siu had said that there was a third person that night of the meteor. Jiang Ryan confirmed that it must be the culprit. He read his memories somehow. You should know where she hid the Giselle to avoid being discovered by him. He was forced to close his eyes when committing the crime. So many knife marks were chaotic. Trying to go to Laos. Moreover, after the whirlwind of Jiang Lian's friend, he improved the trick by using a bright wire for the victim who could not escape in time. Now he recalled the people she bumped into on the way to find Jiang Ryan. According to his words, the suspect may be among the following 7 people: Father EU Guan, MP Father. Rank the policeman, the policewoman, the mysterious flag, the magician Musin, the grandfather of the bun, and the village chief. But he trusted them wholeheartedly. For example, the magician Musin, although he seems careless, often lies to make money. But all because he wanted to send more money to his son abroad. He thought that a good father couldn't be a murderer, and Ming Chi couldn't do it. For he himself had advised him not to believe anyone, not even myself. If he was really the perpetrator, he wouldn't say such a word. For the village chief, who is Hyejin's father, the grandfather is a family member. Father EU Guan is also a member of the family, and the pair of police officers and policewomen are also upright. At the same time, his grandfather was at home, flipping through a notebook. The whole article exposes embezzlement. In the background of building the village, he handed over the notebook to the police to ask him to investigate further. See if my grandfather has a bad event that is about to happen to him. Next, MP Chai EU Guan came to the station, asking the police to be lenient with the mother's case, because of the bad impact on the local economy, making the police realize that since he was elected, Father EU Guan no longer looks as humble as before. Meanwhile, Jiang Ryan wants to save the tea shop girl named Jan and even pay off her debt. But the tea house owners still disagreed because she kept Jan working to make more money. Unexpectedly, Jiang Ryan was not a medium type. He asked for the excuse of solving the murder case to make a damn tea shop. As soon as the visitor arrived, he immediately handed out the police card, even serving the whole group of delinquents, threatening them not to come back. There was no way. The owner had to release Jan after receiving the money, ending the debt. That night, Minky went to see Yibin and answered the phone she had forgotten, inviting her to eat udon. Yibin was excited, but he remembered Jiang Ryan's warning that the perpetrator might choose him as her next target. She refused. Previously, while saving Giselle, Yibin injured his hand and had to be stitched, so now his superpower is temporarily disabled. After the treatment, she and Jiang Ryan went to see Choi Minkyu, ask him to try upgrading his hand to increase his memory reading power. Instead, this time they take care of Choi Minkyu's hand. They also painted his nails, nursed him, and then let him touch the Yibin, checking his memories of the shooting star's night. As a result, the third person's face in the memoir is still blurry. He could only guess that the opponent was taller than Choi Minkyu, but shorter than Jiang Ryan, and his body was neither fat nor thin. Leaving Minkyu's house, Yibin happened to meet Minky, and he said that his history had just been arranged. Invite her to visit. She agrees immediately. At that time, Jiang Ryan was standing next to Choi Minkyu in front of the grocery store. Accidentally caught Minky coming out, noticing that his height and stature were very much in line with the description of the third person. Minkyu also said that Minky's back looked exactly like the mysterious person. In addition, Jiang Ryan discovered that the store sold a type of drawstring and vertical drawstring, just like the perpetrator had used. The restaurant clerk said that on election day, when Shell was harmed, Minky was not done. Thinking of looking good, Jiang Ryan suddenly became worried when he found out that Yibin was with Minky in the carpentry workshop. He hurriedly came over and saw Minky holding the same sword as the usual long, sloppy attacker approaching Yibin. Jiang Ryan rushed in without thinking, but it turned out that Minky was just going to peel the apple. Even though he had alibi evidence, on the day of the trial, he was in the workshop waiting for wood. There were also witnesses. Song Jiang was still suspicious. He realizes that since Minky moved in, new cases have begun. In order to find a common clue to the 3 cases, Jiang Ryan and Choi Minkyu meet on duty. He summed up that the perpetrator had to close his eyes at the time of the crime so that he would not be read by the Yibin. Explain why the victims are all interlocuted, try and be a violent perpetrator. It is also possible that he can read memories without touching the body of a human or animal like Yibin and Minkyu. Because on the day of the meteor shower, he had never touched the groin. And the Lobster Festival is about to take place. A large number of villagers will participate. Jiang Ryan wanted to take advantage of the opportunity to catch the murderer. He discusses with Minkyu and Yibin the plan, and Minkyu will open a shop selling milk with foot massage. Yibin faces down behind the fortune-telling counter set up by the magician Muzin, with Minkyu as the design counter. Normally it's just fortune-telling, but they varied. Perforate the chair so that the Yibin can sneak up on the buttocks. The magician was given the money, so he was very enthusiastic. On the day of the lobster festival came, Jiang Ryan commanded everyone over the radio, and Hyojin also participated. In the first mission, Hyojin leads a few villagers to Choi Minkyu's counter. He pretended to invite him to drink milk, massage his legs, and check if he found anything. Next, Hyojin's relationship team secretly arranged the police and Yibin's aunt. The two of them just connected the old story to the magician's counter. If the magician wants to know more, sit on the chair with the hand of the truth and then secretly touch their buttocks. Memories emerge showing that the police officer received the document from Yibin's grandfather. When she met her aunt, Yibin saw scenes related to her mother in the past. Father Yibin ranks police, policewoman Minky, magician Muzin, Yibin's grandfather. Along with the village chief, all 7 people were originally suspicious. But this time, Jang Yibin also took into account the possibility that his grandfather or parliamentarian Cha Yibin was involved in the land scandals, causing many villagers to lose all their property and have to wander. Yibin's mother, who used to be a reporter, participated in the protest with the villagers, which gradually revealed major clues. While Yibin keeps an eye on the targets at the festival, Jang Yibin continues to pay attention to the most suspicious object, Minky. Minky takes the mage Muzin's son to Choi Minky's milk stall. He wanted to take advantage of a foot massage to collect more memories, but Minky repeatedly refused. In the end, Choi Minky tried to force his hand. Minky quickly dodged, and his tough attitude stopped him. Next, the youngest policeman in the station was jokingly called his lover to stop by. While massaging his legs, Choi Minky saw in his lover's memory the scene where Minky watched his father one night, and then directed Minky to drive back towards the Choi Minky cow breed. This made Jang Ryan even more suspicious. He changed his tactics, telling Yibin and Choi Minkyu to touch the buttocks of the people involved one after another, in order to validate Minky's actions that night. Sure enough, another villager also saw Minky following his father, and Minky even pulled something out of his pocket. Coincidentally, at that time, the policewoman walked right behind Minky, and Hyo-ri quickly lured the policewoman to the magician's counter. Yibin hid behind the wall to touch his buttocks. The result was only that Minky took the leaflet from her bag, and the policewoman had nothing suspicious. However, Jang Ryan is still not at ease, because every time Minky appears, she is involved in her father's actions. On the other hand, putting the police on duty and dating Yibin. What happened to be in his car a piece of documents brought by his grandfather, what told Yibin's mother. As a reporter, he also pursued this case, but before she could find out the truth, she unfortunately died. Over the past time, the police have been quietly investigating, discovering that a few years ago the village had a redevelopment project. When the people heard the news, they first bought land at a high price, but they didn't expect that the previous parliamentarian would sell all the land when the price pushed to the top, and then the project was dissolved. The people who studied the land were all bankrupt, and the villagers suspected that Father Iguin at that time was an assistant to the former parliamentarian and also took the opportunity to make a lot of profits. While the festival was going on, Jiang Ryan was suspicious of Yibin's grandfather, so he dragged him to Choi Minkyu's foot massage counter so that he could try out his thighs. The results show that Minkyu follows Yibin's father that same night. Grandpa secretly filmed a video of the parliamentarian crawling to meet Choi Minkyu's father, at which time Yibin and Choi Minkyu were hit by a meteor. It turns out that Father Iguin may be the one with the third ability. Hyojin immediately invited Father Iguin to Muzin's counter, and Yibin touched his buttocks. Seeing that day, he just wanted to convince Choi Minkyu's father to sell the land to build a resort, but refused. He left in frustration in the middle of a call. So when the meteor fell, he had left the slack, unable to be the recipient of the ability. Yibin looked deeper and saw that the magician Muzin was also standing near the cow at that time. At the same time, she also saw the scene where her mother met Yibin's father before she died. It is clear that the MP is lying about not seeing her for months. Jiang Ryan told Choi Minkyu to touch Muzin's legs. He saw the night of the shooting star. The magician accidentally slipped and fell on the side of the mountain. Glancing at the cow's side, he saw Minkyu standing there. Yibin and Jiang Ryan are shocked, Is Minkyu the perpetrator of the 3 mother cases? But there is not enough evidence of guilt. So they arranged for Minkyu to sit in the Ask Fortune Teller chair to show Yibin her memories. Hyojin plans to chase Muzin away, asking Minkyu in the stall. The truth chair had 2 small holes for Yibin to poke his buttocks, but Minkyu stared at him carefully. Fortunately, Jiang Ryan walked over and invited Minkyu to sit down, attacking the crowd with questions. Why would a good bachelor accept to come here to live? Minkyu responds, asking why the police suspect him without evidence. Showing both injustice and extreme resentment, Jiang Ryan couldn't do anything. He continued to search for information about Minkyu, knowing that his father died early and his mother was separated. Just 2 nights ago, Minkyu was away, and Jiang Ryan took advantage of the opportunity to sneak into his room at Muzin's house. Discovering a photo of a boy about 78 years old, Muzin also went to the room to get English exercises. The two were talking when Choi Minkyu reported that there was urgent news. He caught Minkyu on the street, followed her into the woods, and found Minkyu sleeping. He tried to touch his thighs, but Minkyu was nervous, panicking, causing the pile of wood to fall. Choi Minkyu was crushed by a piece of wood, and Minkyu immediately took him to the hospital, so he was only slightly injured. Minkyu also supported him with some of the plank force. Choi Minkyu suddenly changed his mind. How could such a good person be a murderer? After the festival, Ibun was shocked because when she touched her father's cheeks, she saw her late mother. She was even more confused when she witnessed the scene. It seemed that Yu Yiguan's father was standing by the door of her mother's car before she plunged into the river. No matter how she went to visit her mother's grave, she said that her mother was an honest reporter. Ibun felt sorry for herself, thinking that her mother left without leaving a word. She recalled that once Ibun's mother confided in her father, at that time, she was under a lot of work pressure. Father Yu Igwin used to pursue his mother when he was young, and he came to the house the next day. Ibun took the opportunity to ask about it, wanting to know the reason why her mother acted extremely. He replied vaguely, telling Ibun's mother to be depressed because of the reports. She hadn't seen him for months. She was stunned, because yesterday when she touched his buttocks, she could see clearly the night before her mother died. He was standing close to the door of her car. Knowing that he was lying, Ibun Sin was sad, and went to the beach alone to drink. Minkyu walked sideways, sat down with her. The wind blew her skirt. Minkyu kindly covered Ibun with a coat. Softening her heart once again, she began to talk about her mother, Cha Yu Igwin. The policeman, the policewoman, Minkyu, the magician Muzin, Ibun's grandfather, and a village chief. All 7 of these people were put under suspicion, which at first sounded absurd. But considering the actual situation, so many people are indeed important links around the mass murder case. Ibun never thought that her grandfather or parliamentarian Cha Yu Igwin would stalk, but Jiang Ryan still kept his utmost vigilance. He knew that since she was a child, Ibun grew up in loss. Her mother used to be a tough female reporter, not afraid to go out to protest when villagers are tricked into selling land. Then she suddenly died, leaving many mysteries related to the interest group that calculated with the development project as a knot that no one could untie. Now, Ibun has to touch his buttocks everywhere to find clues, while silently answering the I-link related to his mother. Ibun really fell into a vortex of jealousy, and his mood was getting heavier and heavier every time. Ibun asked Jiang Ryan to help investigate his mother's case in the past. Jiang Ryan found the old file at the police station. Records show that Ibun's mother's body has traces of sedatives, and there are no foreign injuries at all. That year, after the crash of the car into the sea, Yu Ibun's father testified that Ibun's mother showed signs of mental instability, while taking medication and going to a psychiatric examination. In other words, if it were not for the testimony of Father Yu Ibun, I am afraid that the nature of Mother Ibun would have been investigated in a different direction. But all the moves to investigate the car crash that year quickly reached the ears of Father Yu Ibun. At night, he deliberately brought fried chicken to Ibun's house, still maintaining a peaceful appearance. But the words implicitly warned Ibun not to get too close to Jiang Ryan. He also cleverly talked about her mother in front of her grandfather, making his grandfather even more depressed. The man who loved him knew the truth about his daughter's quality, but the expert father pretended to be stupid and even smiled defiantly. At that moment, the clinic's dog saw something unusual. He kept pouring moisture into the face of the father of the EU, and the Ibun touched the dog buttocks. Seeing the scene of his grandfather arguing with his father, She realized that her grandfather had long been skeptical of her mother's qualities related to this parliamentarian. But when Abun asked why, her grandfather told her not to get involved, because he wanted to deal with it personally, feeling excluded from everything. Abun led her to run to Hyojin's house to sleep. While talking, she expressed skepticism about her father. Hyojin advised that if you want to know the truth, you have to touch his buttocks for a long time. Because the contact was short, I could only see a few memories, so the next morning, Hyojin sat on duty under the government building, being excused to invite Father Abun to listen to the thoughts of young people. In fact, dragged him into the drinking, used his 1,000-glass volume to wish him a soft drink. In order for Abun to easily touch her buttocks, she suddenly saw the shocking truth. In the old days, because of the infatuation of Abun's mother, Father Abun once risked giving her all the garbage documents of the redevelopment project. Being discovered by the pre-infected parliamentarian immediately gave him a lesson. Then he was both squeezing and pressing, taking the division of the constituency as bait, forcing him to withdraw and close the evidence. In the end, Father Abun chose to protect his position and path instead of the woman he loved. Before the trial, he secretly put the cigarette in Abun's mother's glass. Then the loose brakes caused the car to roll into the sea. Abun was shocked when he saw it. That same night, he told Jiang Ryan that he had lost sight of Minky. A hunch tells Jiang Ryan that Minky will target Cha Abun. He hurriedly ran to the parliamentarian's office and found blood flowing down. Father Abun died. The man with the knife was also injured lying down. Unexpectedly, it was Abun's grandfather. He was taken to an emergency hospital. The police compared the wounds and the weapon with the previous 3 cases of the mother and found that they were completely matched. They thought his grandfather was a serial killer. However, Jiang Ryan immediately rushed to Minky's interrogation. But Minky still calmly affirmed that she was going home after work. Without a single accusatory evidence, he had to tie his hands. Now that a member of parliament has just been killed, the case has stirred up so much that the felony team on the department wants to take over. Fortunately, Jiang Ryan and his colleagues were able to transfer the entire investigation file out without letting anyone intervene. At this time, almost everyone was suspicious of his grandfather. Even Abun was suspicious. But Jiang Ryan was very sure that his grandfather was innocent, and he secretly looked at the medical records, discovered that my grandfather had Parkinson's, late-stage, trembling limbs. I can't hold a knife, let alone pity anyone. Abun returned to his grandfather's room, replacing the Parkinson's medication in a photo album. Among them is a photo of her childhood holding a sports festival. She was surprised to recall her mother's words to take care of the photo carefully. It turned out that my grandfather was always silently watching, just not showing it. Abun hugged his frustration because he thought he hated him. Now he understood that he was protecting her in silence, intending to touch his buttocks to illuminate his memories. But my grandfather's consciousness was just in time to wake up. He lovingly held her hand to love the container, making Abun burst into tears. Unfortunately, my grandfather suddenly passed away, and I didn't have time to say anything more. Before he died, his grandfather suddenly remembered going to see the parliamentarian that night, because he wants to pay a fair debt to his daughter. Seeing that the door of the room was open, he walked in and immediately saw the scene of the perpetrator stabbing his father. But he didn't have time to tell this to Abun. Even though his grandfather died, the police still wanted an autopsy because they thought he was the killer. Jiang Lian understood that Abun was too heartbroken, but he didn't object, just quietly sad. He just invited a doctor to treat him to prove that his grandfather could not hold a knife. In addition, the 4 cases all have the same signs of intentional murder. My grandfather was just a witness to being trapped. In the end, his superiors agreed not to continue to doubt him, helping the funeral procedures to be carried out. A few days after the funeral, Abun seemed to collapse, and she regretted not caring enough about him. Now Jiang Lian noticed that the whole village came to condolence. Only Minky was absent. More strangely, Minky also quit her job at the grocery store, did not appear at the carpentry workshop. The phone was off, no credit card was spent, and it looked like it had disappeared from the village. Jiang Lian's team checked the camera at the bus station and still found no trace. It was as if Minky had evaporated. At the same time, the police held documents related to his grandfather. After arranging the police, he handed over the investigation book of Abun's father to Abun. she decided to make public his corruption and embezzlement materials. Very quickly, the news spread on television, which was also considered to help the grandfather to be praised. Because his greatest concern has been clarified, this time because he is so sad. Abun didn't like to eat and drink for days, which made Jiang Lian worried. He immediately bought her favorite food, advising Abun to stay healthy. Only then would he be able to use his superpowers to track down the murderer. Abun obeyed. She was grateful that Jiang Lian had helped vindicate her grandfather. He also made up his mind to continue the investigation. Jiang Lian and his colleagues discussed prioritizing finding Minky in the immediate future, preventing him from continuing to laugh. Who would have thought that Minky would take the initiative to appear at the funeral? He told Abun that he was late because he was busy looking for news about his mother. Every time there's a clue related to his mother, he can't ignore it. But almost only disappointed, Minky also confessed that he once wanted to kill his father Abun to avenge his mother. After arriving in this village, he gradually let go of his intention to take revenge, because even if he died, his mother couldn't come back. At the same time, Choi Minkyu sneaks up to Muzin's house, trying to touch his thigh, seeing the scene where Muzin used to go to Cha Ibun's office with a knife, then immediately reported it to Jiang Lian, a police officer named Ding Jiang. Thinking that Choi Minkyu was an eyewitness who saw and heard, he immediately ordered a search of the magician's house. But no promotional knife was found, so they suspected Muzin of being a suspect. Arresting him for investigation, Muzin failed to present alibi evidence. Also blind to the knife, Jiang Lian's colleague began to shimmer, given that Choi Minkyu's testimony was enough to put Muzin under suspicion. Only Jiang Lian continued to doubt Minky, but could not convince everyone. He had to reveal that Abun had superpowers. After hearing this, my colleagues thought he was talking about myths. Abun then asked the law to prove it, forcing them to believe it. She hurriedly explained that Muzin was not the culprit. At the same time, he recounted the details of the day before when he was bored with him working as a magician, preventing him from blinding. After that, Jiang Lian also noted that day was not the right day for Father Abun to be pitied. If Muzin has stopped once, what if he come back a few days later? To verify, the group decided to let Abun touch Muzin's buttocks. But the misery of Muzin is being detained by the police. Not easy to approach, tomorrow the female police officer in the group. Good at reading mouths and operating keyboards. Many specialized in catching Xiaotam have passed through the glass door. Guessing that the other party was about to order food, he pretended to be a shipper, deliberately making food, forcing them to go to the toilet to clean. Jiang Lian led Abun into the interrogation room, put the police and other comrades in charge of prolonging the time. Abun finally touched Muzin's buttocks and immediately saw clearly the night of his mother's murder. The magician did not go to Cha Ibun's office, but went to study English with Minky. He was so panicked that he forgot, and Muzin later told the police. Comparing with Minky's words, it matched perfectly, and he was released. By the way, Jiang Lian asked more about Minky. Muzin remembered that he was half an hour late that night. Jiang Lian calculated that the distance from the grocery store to the first stop only took about 30 minutes. Minky should have finished work at 8 a.m., but she had to arrive at 8:30 a.m. The flag only appeared at 9 o'clock, if you add the time past the office of the father of the Yubin to commit the crime. It was strangely matched, Jiang Lian asked angrily. Minky explained that he had taken Ibun's grandfather to the headquarters because his legs were weak. It is difficult to walk, so it takes a long time. To confirm that Jiang Lian wants Abun to touch Minky's ass. He guessed that she had the ability from the day she was in the fortune-telling chair at the festival. In addition, she and Jiang Lian kept fighting each other. Minky was not surprised. On the contrary, he actively agreed. Abun saw exactly as he said. Minky sees off her grandfather to the building where Father Abun works and leaves. Moreover, the memory of the meteor night shows. He hides behind Choi Minkyu's bull run, but leaves before the moment the meteor falls. It proves that Minky has no superpowers, nor is she the perpetrator. Jiang Lian began to stalemate, and the suspects were innocent one after another, not knowing where they went wrong. At the same time, Ajan, now Choi Minkyu's girlfriend, invites Abun to eat fruit. Hearing that she had the ability, Ajan wanted her to touch her buttocks to find the dropped ring. Abun was about to make a move when Choi Minkyu rushed in to stop her. This made Abun suspicious. He must have been hiding something. When discussing with Hyojin, Abun remembered. The person who spread the news that a third person was also shot by a meteor was Choi Mingyu. What if he was placed to draw attention away from him? Zhang Lian felt that argument was quite reasonable. Indeed, only Choi Mingyu insisted on seeing that person. He also released evidence of harming Minky and Muzin. So he pretended to check every detail, discovering that Choi Mingyu was completely harsh on the conditions of the murderer. On the night of Ibun's father's death, he told him to go to deliver milk, so he could have the opportunity to sneak into the office. Therefore, Zhang Lian immediately told Abun not to go out tonight. He then ordered his teammates to track down Choi Minkyu's phone. Suddenly, a figure wearing a raincoat appeared, holding a knife that was still dripping blood. It was obvious that the perpetrator, Zhang Lian, had just sung, and he immediately ran away, and he chased after him, but still let the perpetrator escape. After checking, the area where the perpetrator disappeared was located near the house of the magician Muzin. Coincidentally, Mingyu also lives there. At that moment, Mingyu stepped out to take out the garbage, and Zhang Lian saw that his hands were stained with blood. Hurriedly rummaged through the trash, began to search for weapons, questioning where he had hidden the knife. But Mingyu exclaimed. At that moment, Zhang Lian receives a phone call from Abun, informing him that Choi Mingyu has a problem. He rushed over and saw that Choi Mingyu had died. The suspicion for Mingyu in Zhang Lian flares up even more. He rushes to check Minkyu's room, but Mingyu does not give in due to lack of orders. Through the victim's girlfriend's words, Zhang Lian knew that Choi Mingyu went out that night to confirm something. It is possible that he has found clues about the perpetrator, so he was killed. This also proves that Choi Mingyu does not lie about the existence of a third person who is given power. Abun tells Zhang Lian that before he died, Choi Mingyu only had time to mention 2 black words. Zhang Lian understood immediately. The black color was related to the fact that the perpetrator deliberately closed his eyes when he made a move, so that Abun, who has superpowers, can't read memories. So what she saw was just a dark patch. Choi Mingyu must have touched the perpetrator and guessed his tricks. Immediately, he did not have time to clarify. However, Zhang Lian still found it hard to believe because he wanted to kill people and close his eyes to find out how to locate them accurately. Surely the perpetrator must have a special awake while opening his eyes and deceiving Abun so that she could see that it was all black. But what exactly he does not understand for the time being. This time, Zhang Lian told Abun not to risk getting close to Mingyu. Don't touch his buttocks. If you don't understand how that black curtain works, you will recklessly just finish it. But Abun thought the opposite. She thought that she had to be in contact to hope to trace the truth. That night, she secretly called Mingyu. He still maintains an extremely relaxed attitude, ready for Abun to touch his ass because he doesn't want to be suspected. Abun refuses, believing Mingyu is innocent, and even reveals the possibility that the perpetrator also has superpowers. At the same time, Zhang Lian continued to experiment, concluding that no matter how familiar he was with the terrain and the target, wanting to close your eyes and go in the right direction to make an accurate move is almost impossible. Surely the perpetrator changed his method after the rape of Ibun's grandfather, as evidenced by the autopsy. The knife marks on the 3 victims on the head were all confused, proving that the perpetrator closed his eyes. But in the later victims, the extreme stain could not be groped. So for now, the person Zhang Lian dotted was still Mingyu. The Dingjiang police officer also suspected this, questioning Mingyu but finding nothing, and rummaging the room empty-handed. Zhang Lian thought that Mingyu had not had time to vent his weapons, so he called on his colleagues to follow him. One day, Mingyu went to the clinic and asked Abun to go back to the carpentry workshop with him. Taking the excuse that she was being suspicious, she wanted to have a trustworthy person by her side. Abun happily agreed, and as soon as she arrived, Mingyu instructed her how to grind wood with armor. Her heart was pounding again, but she was excited when the phone rang Zhang Lian. He also came to the workshop. This time, he didn't supervise Mingyu at all, but was mainly worried about Abun. As for forcing his mouth to say, "How do you like Mingyu so much if you just want to fall in love? Why don't you choose me?" Abun angrily scolds the stupid guy and then pulls the forge, hiding himself from Mingyu. She firmly believes in this guy. Because the whole team investigated many cases beyond their competence, the police were reprimanded by their superiors. Zhang Lian's team was also asked to go to another locality to work to protect colleagues. He was forced to obey orders, but before leaving, he made many plans. Her teammates send Musin to spy on Minkyu. She looks for weapons. And Jiang Lian herself pretended to detain Abun, took her phone, worried that the killer would target her next. But Abun tried to tell the story of his superpowers to the Dingjiang policeman. It made him think she was not normal, so he hurriedly released her. That night, Minkyu makes another appointment with her, and she still agrees. Hyojin immediately informed Jiang Lian, and he decisively asked to return. When asked if he was worried about Abun as a police officer or a man, he answered both of them, and immediately lined up to let him go home. Abun arrives at the carpentry workshop and sees Minkyu staring at the toolbox. Inside was the bloody papilla knife. Before he had time to hide it, Musin appeared. Minkyu quickly replied, splashing dirty water on Musin's body. He took the opportunity to lead him to find the toilet, and left the room for a while. Curiosity made Abun open the box to detect the weapon, and was momentarily confused. She hurriedly ran away, and Minkyu returned without seeing her, so she chased after her. In addition, through the investigation process, Jiang Lian also discovered that Musin's wife abroad had been mistreated. Musin admitted that he took action because of his wife's infidelity. Jiang Lian asked why he had harmed the villagers. At first, Musin said that because they had all betrayed others. Except for Ibun's grandfather, he is a victim of nonviolence. But then he said he had no motive, he was just for fun. I just wanted to see what was going on in my mind when people were before. Jiang Lian was indignant, not expecting Musin to threaten. If he is not released, more people will die. Why discover the Arabic book in the Minkyu room? Musin guessed that before he died, Minkyu had left a clue, so he immediately took Hyojin as a hostage. Sure enough, Ibun found out that Hyojin was missing, so she touched Musin's buttocks to check, seeing the scene where he fainted Hyojin and dragged him away. But the sequel is all black because Musin deliberately closed his eyes when hiding Hyojin, in order to avoid being read by Ibun to save you. Ibun threatened Musin with a knife, forcing him into the car, forcing Jiang Lian to drive him to the location designated by Musin. But when he arrived, Musin changed his mind again, not revealing where Hyojin was, also called the guy who didn't play with Jiang Lian. They suddenly attacked from behind and slammed hard, causing Jiang Lian to collapse. After that, he was tied up with Ibun in the warehouse, and her hands were also shackled. She tried to move closer, shaking Jiang Lian, and when he woke up, she breathed a sigh of relief. The apricot man gloated to see this ancient enemy far from the net. He was also curious about how Musin knew all his secrets just by looking into his eyes. Musin said this ability helped him read other people's memories. At the same time, it was also revealed that Ibun also has the ability to touch his buttocks to look back on the past. The bunch guy immediately wanted to try it, and told his juniors to inject anesthesia into Ibun so that she would be obedient. But just at the moment of injection, she quickly pulled out the syringe and injected the person again. He fell unconscious. Before that, Ibun had time to touch Jiang Lian's buttocks, reviewing his memories of studying at the police academy, learning how to untie her handcuffs when she was caught. She freed herself and then touched the junior's buttocks. Instead of them, he dragged Jiang Lian to the doctor who was preparing to return the surgery. She ran after her, banging the iron pipe hard at the doctor. Fortunately, Jiang Lian had just regained consciousness, and he was able to stop her from being too strong. The two of them all ran away, but he faltered again. Confirming through the camera that Ibun did indeed have superpowers, he shouted for his juniors to kill Jiang Lian, and Ibun had to be taken alive, but they were too disdainful of the bloody police, just fidgeting. Jiang Lian had knocked them all down, and the demon faltered to surrender. Immediately, he threw a slap on his shoulder, as if repaying the old blow. After processing, the two contacted the police. Ibun told her everything she saw when she touched Busan's buttocks, which was a clue that helped narrow the area of the Hyojin mark. But after the memory cleared, the rest was still black, so they only relied on the sound. Ibun remembered the sound of wind chimes, the sound of footsteps at the bridge under the tunnel, the sound of the wind hitting the flag or hanging cloth, the school superintendent, the fat man. Accompanying them also listened to the surroundings and determined a location. Finally finding Hyojin thrown in an underground pit. Luckily, she is alive. Next, they had to arrest Busan, relying on the sluggish man's words. They knew that Busan was going to pay to escape abroad, and Jiang Lian set up a person at the pier. But Busan was wise, reading the memories of the people who bought the bottles. Seeing that something was wrong, he left the ship before he was caught and just ran away everywhere. Use his eyes to scan people passing by to avoid the police. As for sneaking into the bank to withdraw the victim's money, Ibun and Jiang Lian arrived at the place, but it was too late. Just like that, Busan hid. Accidentally seeing a guy pulling a suitcase as if he was about to leave his hometown, he immediately blocked the way, looking into the other party's eyes, stealing the address information, and then dragging to his house. Ibun and Jiang Lian followed the news that Busan had changed his schedule to flee abroad 3 hours earlier. Busan impatiently waited for the train to arrive, just at the same time that Ibun and Jiang Lian were also familiar nearby. To find the whereabouts of Busan, they flew to invite the children along the road to play hide and seek. When the game ended, the Ibun took turns touching the children's buttocks. Through the memory of a child, she saw countless hiding places, and immediately led Jiang Lian to run through the house. Busan was startled when he saw the two people appear. Grabbing the knife and fleeing, on the way to escape, he stabbed a passerby in the thigh, then took advantage of the victim's eyes to send a warning message to Ibun. Soon, Ibun and Jiang Lian ran over, and she bent down to treat the person who had been stabbed. Taking the opportunity to touch his ass and see the right scene of Busan leaving a message, Ibun told Jiang Lian, but he refused to let go and continued to chase. Ibun also caught up with a person who collapsed on the side of the road, thinking that the victim was killed by Busan. Jiang Lian hurriedly called for ambulance, telling Ibun to check the injury. Who would have thought that when he turned this person over, Ibun saw that it was Busan. He used her fate to intimidate, demanding that Jiang Lian let go, promising to release Ibun once he went abroad. Of course, Jiang Lian didn't believe it. He pretended to say that he also had superpowers. Starting the countdown, he told Busan to try to take a closer look. Busan was nervous because he thought that Jiang Lian was indeed capable of being formidable. Momentarily focusing all his attention on him, Ibun took advantage of the escape zone. Jiang Lian immediately restrained himself, and Busan was still overbearing. Showing off his ability to look into his eyes will help him live comfortably in curiosity. If you want someone, just do it to your friends. Ibun is angry. Rushed over to try to poke his eyes to sleep, threatening to come to prison every week to take care of his eyes. Shortly afterwards, because of successfully breaking the series of mother's cases, Jiang Lian was sent back to Seoul, and the investigation team was also preparing to leave the village. He searched for Ibun and couldn't find it. It turned out that she was running like flying to the bus station. But still slow, Ibun's eyes suddenly turned red. Unexpectedly, hearing Jiang Lian's voice behind him, he deliberately waited for the next trip to meet her. In the waiting room, Ibun congratulates him on his return to Seoul, but his sulky voice made him only know now that he was crying and laughing. Jiang Lian suggested that she go to Seoul often. The two can date. The half-a-sup confession makes Ibun blush. 8 months later, Ibun was invited to Seoul to participate in a show. When she was done, Hyejin picked her up. On the way, she accidentally saw the Seoul Police Department building. Remembering Jiang Lian, he took advantage of makeup and outstanding lipstick. Looking for him, the two of them hadn't seen each other for a long time, and Jiang Lian invited her to the coffee shop. Ibun has a whole block of things to confide in. But let's open it again and be interrupted by Jiang Lian's work phone. Frustrated, she insisted that she would use her ability to help him solve the case. Jiang Lian's successor is looking for her support. He said that if he really wanted to help, he had to change his clothes. As a result, Ibun put on a football uniform and squeezed into the prison as an insider. The target is a female plum girl, the only person who knows the identity of the plumber behind it. Ibun intends to take advantage of the chaos and touch his buttocks to find clues. Who would have thought that just when she touched it, she saw the scene again? Another person who touched her was broken his finger. Too scared, she withdrew her hand, and she couldn't finish attacking her heathen. Ibun moved on to another plan. A few days later, the annual football match took place in court. The goalkeeper who had just expired revealed that she was in a position to take her place. At the beginning of the match, Ibun deliberately missed to hit the beam woman's buttocks. She hated people who moved, and she was angry and tried to fix it. Jiang Ryan appeared out of nowhere, pushing her back. It turned out that he was still quietly protecting a bun from hurting her, touched by that protection. The bun was moved. The female beam was restrained, forced to testify the person behind it. It seems to be a repayment for I-Bun's efforts. She was also angry, leading her companions to chase after the two people who were holding hands and running away.